Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris,
And my name is Chelsea.
and welcome to episode 52. We're going to be talking about NFL Week 11, and we got some big changes up in Chelsea's team that we want to get into. Honestly, it's kind of stolen the NFL headlines, but Chelsea, how are you doing today?
We out here. There's just a lot of things I could say, man, but we out here.
That's why we do this podcast, so all of those things you can be out there saying.
Isn't it week 10 though? Not week
Week 10,
11?
and we're discussing week 11, basically.
Well, that's true. But still.
Well, let's get right into it. So, the big headliner of this past week for the Colts, and for honestly, it's a pretty big deal for the league. Jeff Saturday was hired as interim coach because the Colts fired Frank Reich. Now, while I understand definitely the Colts were not doing as well as they wanted to be, I still think this was puzzling to do in the middle of the season. And it was even more puzzling to give Jeff Saturday the hire because he has absolutely no head coaching experience. The last time that he did, he coached a high school team for 3 years. And other than that, he's only been an assistant coach. He has barely, pretty much no NFL experience when it comes to head coaching. And the Colts could have pulled, any of their assistants that they already have to be interim coach. But instead, Jim Irsay, the owner, decided to hire outside for an interim coach to move all the way to Indianapolis to try and be the interim coach, which most of the time those don't even work out. So he's going to be the coach for like the rest of the year, and then they're just going to fire him. I don't know. Chelsea, this is puzzling to me. Can you explain here? You're the Colts person here.
So, if you have really seen anything about the Colts, you have seen Colts fans complaining about Frank Reich for years at this point, which, side note, is no knock on his personal character nor who he is as a person. He's a super cool dude, and he'll get another coaching job in the league. It's just a matter of time. But the reality is, the time of Frank Reich was up in Indianapolis. People were tired of his personnel decisions. People were tired of just his play calling that was just unnecessarily difficult, that just didn't need to be. Like, he would just overcomplicate things when he didn't need to, made some questionable personnel decisions. It just didn't really feel like he knew how to guide this team back on the rails, right? And really, ever since the end of last year when the Colts blew their playoff chances by losing to the Jaguars, Jim Irsay has kind of just been on another level of impatient with his franchise. I believe it was either a couple of days, or a week after that loss. I think he called like it's either personnel person or player. It was a large group of people, and he just tore in to them about blowing it. Which, to be fair, I mean, they kind of deserved it. They had like 3 chances to get in and still blew it. So, but ever since then, he's just kind of been a ticking time bomb. And with the way this year started, a lot of fans were like, I wonder if we will see any coaching changes, right? Then our offensive coordinator got fired by Frank Reich. Okay. But people weren't satisfied with that, right? Essentially, he was a scapegoat. He didn't call plays. Frank Reich calls plays. So people are like, oh, okay. That was a scapegoat firing. Like, not that they don't do anything, because that's not true. But if you don't call the plays, you don't have as much influence on the offense as the head coach does when the coach calls the plays, right? So he fired him. And then we just had that just miserably bad loss to the Patriots. And I've seen a lot of bad games to the Patriots in my short life, but that one may have been near the top because that was just astronomically atrocious. 9 sacks in one game for a quarterback who's mobile and can run. So let's just take a moment to ponder if that had been Matt Ryan. who can't run and is literally a statue in the pocket. But anyways, so Jim Irsay, being the kind of guy he is, he said, you know what? We're not dealing with this anymore. And he outright fired Frank Reich during the season, which honestly really didn't come as a surprise to any Colts fan who has really followed this team this year. To people who don't follow the Colts as much and people who are just like general NFL fans, like it would come as a surprise because most of the time in the NFL, coaches aren't fired midseason. Now, in other, leagues that'll happen more frequently, like in hockey it'll happen, baseball it'll happen, but very infrequently is it football. And apparently, I don't know if this is true, but word is going around that apparently Jim Irsay fired Frank Reich over the phone.
Yikes.
Not in person. Which is not a knock against Frank Reich. I mean, he didn't choose that. But it most certainly is against Jim Irsay, if that's true, because that's just a terrible way to do business, especially with someone who's been with your team for at least 4 years. So aside from all that, he got fired, and I was thinking, okay, the Colts are going to promote maybe I thought they were going to promote Gus Bradley, right? Our defensive coordinator, because he's been a head coach before. He has experience, and he already knows the defense very well. So I was like, okay, that would make sense. I mean, I wouldn't be super salty about that. I mean, he's a head coaching candidate for a reason. So like, if he pans out, you already have him in the system, right? He already knows it. Well, as we all know, that did not happen. I was working at this here desk doing my job, and I got a notification that said that the Colts had officially announced that they hired Jeff Saturday as the interim head coach for the rest of the year. And I thought to myself, I was not expecting that. I was equal parts, what are we doing? And other parts, I love this. Because, again, the Colts are a small market team, right? Not everyone knows their history, what they've done, etc. Jeff Saturday is an Indianapolis guy. He played with the Packers for, I believe, 1 or 2 seasons at the end of his career when he was a veteran and, he just wasn't that good anymore. He spent the vast majority, 90% of his career with Indianapolis. He played for 14 years as center for Peyton Manning for his whole career. Peyton Manning, the number 2 quarterback of all time. Jeff Saturday, a very, very good center, will make the Hall of Fame if he hasn't already. He has been to the playoffs. I couldn't even tell you how many times. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been to another Super Bowl. Does he have professional coaching experience? Obviously not. But there are coaches in the NFL that did not play in the NFL that are head coaches that are good. So what's to say that the reverse can't be true, right? Yes, he may not have professional coaching experience, but he's lived it. Yeah, he might not have been calling the plays and calling the assignments, but he's done it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, those are very different things, right? This is either going to go really, really good or really, really bad. And really, whichever way it goes, it's going to be fine. Because if it goes really, really good, we'll make the playoffs. And that means Sam Ehlinger has succeeded, right? So we have some kind of stability at quarterback, and we could still take one at the end of the first, right? And if it goes really, really bad, we'll have a top 10 pick and can take a really good quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, either way, it has potential. I personally think that bringing Jeff Saturday in is less of this is the man who knows football and how to coach it in this league. I think it's more of the morale is dead in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. People don't want to be there. They don't want to play. Frank Reich inspired no one with how good of a person he was. He just didn't inspire anyone. That just is his personality. He's not the kind of coach to get fired up. He's very calm, very level-headed, very intelligent, but he's just not fiery. And that just doesn't resonate with players of this age anymore. It may have, back in the day, but really anymore, you look at the best coaches in the league, they're all fiery, all of them, without fail. So not only do I think that bringing Jeff Saturday in is a boost to the culture to get it rejuvenated, but it also brings back very, very vivid memories of success, right? Because really all Jeff Saturday experienced with Indianapolis was success. He played in Indianapolis in the best era of Indianapolis football in the franchise's history. He played with Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis. The list goes on and on and on. Brandon Stokely, Marvin Harrison. I mean, you could just name off people for hours. People that are Hall of Famers that have been around that are best ever. So not only does he rejuvenate the franchise, bring in some energy and some passion that quite frankly hasn't been there, but he re-inspires them, right? The past few years, really ever since 2018 when Andrew Luck retired, have been hard on the franchise, on the fans, on the players trying to fill his role. That was unexpected. It literally tanked our team back 5 years, and we still haven't recovered. In 2022, 4 years removed from that, we still haven't recovered. That is how impactful of a guy Andrew Luck was, and that is how good of a chance he had to be one of the best ever. Because if it was just an average Joe, we wouldn't still be here, right? We would have replaced him long ago. But the reality is, when you go from Peyton Manning, who played for your franchise for 95% of his career, and then you go to Andrew Luck, who was the greatest quarterback that had come out in a while when he came out, it's really hard to go from greatness to mediocrity, like in the snap of a finger, really. So really, the franchise has been recovering since then, and it's still very obvious the impact that Andrew Luck's retirement has had on this franchise. Because I feel like if he was still here, we would probably be in a Super Bowl window. If not near the end of one, we probably would have won a Super Bowl at this point if he was still here.
Yeah.
Because if he was still playing now, he'd be in his early 30s, which for a lot of the best quarterbacks is like peak for them, right? They've been in the league for a long time. They know how to read everything. They know all the other teams like the back of their hand. I mean, it's just like second nature.
Yeah.
So Jeff Saturday does not bring coaching experience, but he does bring NFL experience. He does bring passion, and he does bring success with him, which honestly are 3 things that this team quite simply hasn't had this year. So while part of me is like, I wish we would have brought in someone who is a coach, the other part of me is like, this is what Indianapolis needs. They need old blood to come in and rejuvenate these dudes who are talented and can play, but have just lost passion with everything that's been going on with this franchise for the last 4 to 5 years. It just has. And I mean, we've brought in new blood, Buckner and Ngakoue. We drafted Leonard. I mean, it's not to say that this team is not talented. No one is arguing that this team is not talented. That's not the problem. The problem is that the areas that they aren't as talented in are very, very prevalent. And the areas that they should be talented in are not showing up. And that combination is killing us. Yeah. For example, the offensive line is the highest paid offensive line in the league, with 3 of the top linemen in the league playing on that line. All 3 have taken steps back this year, including Quentin Nelson, who is arguably the best left guard in the country, in the NFL, playing right now. So you know that it's just a bad all-around year when even that dude takes a step back, because he is immensely talented. And even him at mediocre is better than most left guards in the league. But still, the difference is obvious for people who watch him on a weekly basis. Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, it would not surprise me if Saturday had some degree of success with the experience that he has with this franchise. And it would not surprise me if he was in the running to take over the head coaching job after this year, because he's going to have to interview. They're not just going to give it to him, especially if it goes poorly. If it goes poorly, there's no way he comes back. If he's mediocre, there's a chance. If he comes in and the Colts look spectacular, honestly, he probably stays. Now, will that happen? Probably not. Let's be realistic here. But there's always a chance. So, I mean, I think he's giving the Colts exactly what they need. And in this moment, honestly, exactly what they need might not be an NFL coach with 20 years of experience. They just need to be rejuvenated and impassioned. And there is no one who could do this like Jeff Saturday. If you know anything about Jeff Saturday, you know that this dude is defined by passion. I mean, he loves Indianapolis. He loves the Colts. He loves the franchise. He loves Jim Irsay. With how questionable Jim Irsay has been, he still loves him. I mean, he loves everything about this team. And that's what this team needs. Someone who is vocal and passionate and willing to speak their mind, because quite frankly, that wasn't Frank Reich. That's okay, but it just wasn't. And they need that. So it might not make us good, might not fix the offensive line or the receivers or heal up our defense, but it'll rejuvenate the franchise. And that's what they need to take a step forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this could be really big or if it works out for the Colts, great. I definitely think Jim Irsay, like you said, he's been impatient. I think he needs a little bit to look at himself in the mirror on this, just a bit, because I mean Andrew Luck was so good and they waited so long to put a good offensive line around him, and that
They really didn't
killed him
get one until
when he
really
left.
after him.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm
if
like,
he had the offensive line that the Colts had last year with Phillip Rivers, the dude would have played 10 more years in the league.
exactly, but I think that's on Irsay, to be honest, a lot of that. So either way, I guess we'll see if this works. But kind of another topic, moving on to the next thing we got here. Some breaking news came out about the Bills' Josh Allen. Just wanted to kind of briefly talk about that here. He potentially has a minor right elbow injury, and they just played the Jets this past weekend, and the Jets are actually looking pretty decent. Honestly, their run game is really good. Their passing game's still not great, to be honest. I think Zach Wilson still has some ways to go, but their defense is playing really well. Sauce Gardner, I mean, he's making
They have
plays.
the sauce.
Exactly. And Josh Allen, I will say at the very end of the game, he hit Gabe Davis in the numbers when he threw a 70-yard bomb in the air on 4th and 10. He hit Gabe Davis in the numbers. Davis just whiffed on the catch, which, I mean, it was a tough catch. He was tightly covered, but still, it was as good of a throw as you could make it in that situation. So I don't think the Bills lost necessarily because of Allen, but also he did not play his best. He kind of he looked like his old self, showed flashes of talent, but was turning the ball over and not making great plays. So I think there was definitely some blame that was deserved. I mean, he even blamed himself in the interview. He was just like, it's hard to win games when your quarterback plays like S, is what he said. And so I don't know. I think this is interesting. I hope it's not a huge deal for Allen. He's been having a fantastic season so far. They have a huge game against Minnesota this weekend, which I'm very interested to see. I think that one's going to be huge. I mean, Minnesota's quietly been winning games. So really props to them. But yeah, I guess.
You mean Kirko Cousins with his multiple chains?
Mm-hmm. I mean, he went from nice collared shirt showing up to games, and now he's like shirtless. He's got chains on. I mean, this is what puts you at 7-1 does. So, but yeah, that should be an interesting one. But Chelsea, do you think this Allen injury is going to be a huge deal?
I mean, to be quite honest, I think it's getting blown up a little bit out of proportion just because it's Josh Allen. It's like when Tom Brady sustains a minor injury and misses a day of practice. People are like, oh, Tom Brady missed practice. Is he going to be out this week? Like, that's kind of what's happening with this. Like, does that mean there's not an injury? No. Does he probably have something wrong? Probably so. If he's listed as day to day, if he was fine, he wouldn't be day to day, right? So I'm sure that there's something not completely right, but it's Josh Allen. And if it's something minor, he'll be able to get right enough to play and then recover the week after. I mean, if he doesn't play, they have Case Keenum, who, to be quite honest, really is not a bad backup. I mean, he's been a starter in the league. Now, is he going to carry the offense to the same degree that Allen is? Obviously not. But what's more interesting, in my opinion, more so than his injury, is if he actually does miss time, right? So, like, say he misses a game or 2 or 3. Does that tank his MVP odds? You would think so, right? Especially with Patrick Mahomes right on his heels. Do the Bills lose being the favorites in the NFC for the championship? I mean, you would think the Chiefs would take that over too, right? I mean, they're right on the heels of the Bills. Do they lose their Super Bowl odds, you know? I mean, this is a stretch, but if he misses multiple games, could they potentially lose first place in the NFC East? Which, if that's the case, and this injury is more serious than it's being painted out to be, that has huge ramifications on this year for
Yeah.
them.
And I
Huge.
mean, the two of the games they've lost have been division games. One to the Jets and then one to Miami. Miami's hot on their tail too, and the
Yeah.
Jets are certainly not bad. They're playing well too. So
And the
you know,
Patriots aren't out of it either. They never are.
and they say that,
Imagine,
you know, that division games count as two. They count double. So
I mean, imagine being the Bills and losing your division, still making the playoffs, right? Imagine having to travel to the Chiefs or the Dolphins or someone like that. Even the Titans are a hard place to play in the playoffs. So, I mean, that not that they can't handle it because they're immensely talented, but if this injury turned into something that was on a week to week basis and they somehow managed to blow that lead, I mean, that has huge implications for the AFC playoffs. Huge. Having to travel to Baltimore or Kansas City or Miami or Tennessee, I mean, none of those places are easy to play. Being on the road, I mean, hey, like I said, it's a stretch. Do I think it's being exaggerated? Yes. But there's always a chance it's not. I mean, what if he plays this weekend against the Vikings and hurts himself further? I mean, there's an
true.
argument to be made. Hey, our MVP has an injury. Hey, we have a very solid grip on our division. Let's sit him for a week so that we can make sure we can still make a run for the Super Bowl. There's an argument to be made. So it'll be interesting to see how they treat him in this game and if this injury is more serious than it's being painted out to be, because McDermott is being very quiet about this. He's not just up at the podium like, yeah, Josh Allen, he'll play this week. It's just a little boo-boo. I mean, dude's not talking about anything. Like, the most he gave the media is that he's day-to-day and that he has a right elbow injury. Like, that's pretty much it. So, you know, either he's just a private dude and doesn't want to tell because he knows the media will blow it up, or, and this is speculation, it's more serious than they first thought. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But regardless, if he plays, that's going to be a very entertaining game. It better be televised nationwide because surprisingly, the Vikings are one of the best teams in the NFC. And the Bills are arguably the best team in the AFC. So that is a marquee matchup, to be completely honest with you.
Nope, it's a 1:00 game, so it is not
Ugh.
nationally. We have
It
two
should be.
really good teams, and but guess what is nationally televised? Are you ready? It's Cowboys and Packers.
Are you kidding me? No one cares.
I mean, it makes sense why, and it makes sense why the schedulers would do that, but man, that hurts.
That's just, can we, you got that notification from the NFL a couple of days ago about how some games were flexed. Can we just like flex that game into a primetime spot?
No.
The
The
other
Cowboys
game out of
have
it?
to be on national TV.
No,
Cowboys
why?
have to be. There's no
They're
other
not.
way.
They're not.
And the Packers have to be on national TV,
Yes,
even though they
because they're so good this year.
they just stunk it up to Detroit. I feel like that should have regressed their game. That's how bad it was.
You know it's bad when you lose to Detroit,
and like you didn't
who
even
has
score a
been
touchdown.
who offensively, they are spectacular. They've been putting up 30-point games almost every game this year. But defensively, they've been giving up 40 points a game. So it's like, if you lose to the Lions, who are giving up 40-point games, what does that say about you?
I don't know. But anyways, let's go real quick. If you don't mind, let's talk about some games. Speaking of these games, what we think about some of these games coming up. Just a couple games we think that are very marquee this week. We've got Seahawks at Bucks. I'm going to go with the Hawks. I think they're better. I think that the Bucks, it's great they won last week, and I mean, I don't care, but some people will say it's great, and that's fine. I mean, honestly, I think the Rams, I don't know how you lose that game. And I don't know why you play soft zone coverage.
Zoft.
Sorry. I don't know why you do that. when Tom Brady's driving down the field and the one thing he's done his whole career is tear up those types of defense. I don't get it. I think it was stupid.
If it'll work one time statistically.
I think
It
that
was not this time. Spoiler alert.
I also think the Rams are like what the Panthers were doing with Christian McCaffrey. Target Cooper Kupp 15 times a game and pray that something happens. And you know what? Sometimes it does. Last week he had a big touchdown, but I'm gonna be honest, that was a blown game by the Rams. Great win by the Bucks. Way to have some resilience and fight through it. You know, Tom Brady was at the podium very happy to win that one. He said it felt good. So, I mean,
Side
props to
note
him.
though,
But
Cooper Kupp, love the dude. I mean, he's spectacular, best receiver in the league. I mean, I don't really feel like it's an argument after he wins the Triple Crown last year. But what was the point of going out and getting Allen Robinson? Like, he literally gets like 3 targets a game. I drafted him in fantasy thinking Cooper Kupp's going to be double covered every play. You know who can make a huge difference on this team? Allen. You know who hasn't? Allen Robinson.
their offense
Why
is
not
terrible.
use him?
Their offense is terrible.
I get their line is like a little bit better than Indianapolis's, but like it's still really bad. So I get that. But like even still, like you signed him to a big free agent contract. Like use the dude. I mean, if he gets going, it frees up Kupp a little bit. Like my fantasy team is suffering. That just might be a rant for fantasy team updates. But anyways.
Fine. Yeah, Chelsea's a huge, passionate Rams fan. Anyways, we didn't mean
come on, man.
We didn't mean to talk so much about that, but yeah, Seahawks and Bucks. I think the Seahawks are on a roll right now. They're very good offensively. They've got it right. Pete Carroll has found something. But yeah, so I'm gonna go with the Hawks on this one. I think that they will beat the Bucks, although I think it'll be tough. I don't think it'll be a cakewalk. So Chelsea, what do you think?
Yes, obviously going with the Seahawks because Geno Smith is an urban freaking legend, and I have Kenneth Walker on my fantasy team. So I feel like that's enough explanation. Go Hawks.
All right. Next, we got the Vikings at Bills. I'm gonna go with the Bills on this one. I think that they will recover from last week. I think this one's gonna be close, and honestly, picking either team, there is no blame shown to pick either of these teams here, but the Bills I still think can win this game because they're at home. Bills place is a tough place to play. Minnesota will have their fans because their fans travel. They have a passionate fan base, but the Bills Mafia is something different, and it's at home for them. And I think Allen hopefully will have a bounce back game, assuming his injury does not keep him out.
Yeah, so I am going to go with the opposite team in this one. You know, a little competition this week. I'm going to go with the Vikings because if Josh Allen is injured and it's more serious than they're letting on, he is probably going to be a little more limited than he would be usually. I don't think it would be anything serious, but I think that the Vikings are legit, and I think that this is going to be a really good test for the Bills. Do I think the Vikings are as good as the Bills? No. Kirk Cousins is not Josh Allen. But to say that the Bills are not talented and are not having a great year is a lie. Or the Vikings, to say that they're not talented and not having great years is a lie. They're kind of like when Indianapolis does really good, no one talks about them, right? Because they're a small market. But they're legit. They're a really good team. They're well coached. They have a good roster. They know how to compete. They know how to win games. They know how to close out games. I mean, look at last week. They closed that one out. So I'm gonna go with the Vikings this week. I have a feeling. Per the Black Eyed Peas, I got a feeling. Ooh, ooh.
Nice. Oh, now we're gonna get copyright striked. Well, that's over.
Oh no.
Next game, last one we got here, 49ers or the Chargers at the 49ers. I'm going to go with the 49ers on this one. The Chargers barely beat the Falcons last week in spectacular choking fashion. Neither team wanted to win that game. I mean, it was honestly insane. I mean, one of the final drives, Chargers are driving to win it, and then they fumble. The Atlanta player recovers it. and it's on 4th down. So, it's like, okay, well, no matter what, it would have been a turnover, but cool. He got the fumble. He's running it back. What happens? The Atlanta player fumbles it. So that counts as a change of possession. So then the Chargers get it back and they kick a game-winning field goal. I don't trust a team that's got to beat the Falcons winning like that. I don't
That's
think
just
that they
wrong,
will
man.
win. I mean, come on. Like, I know football things happen, but like the Chargers should be better than they are. I think they should. Now they have a winning record, so props to them, and they still have a chance at the playoffs. But I was really thinking they could have been potential Super Bowl contenders, and as of now, they have Justin Herbert throwing 5-yard dump offs. Like, what are they doing? What happened to when Justin Herbert was just slinging it? Like, why did they go away from that? I'll never know. Whatever. I don't think they're that great. I think they could be a playoff team, but man, just it's sad. It feels like they should be better than they are. I think the 49ers, I think they have new life in them. I mean, you saw against the Rams. I mean, they just put a beat down on the Rams. McCaffrey has been a huge, I think, just electricity boost to this team. I mean, I swear, if you look at promotions right now, because this is the Sunday night game, it's McCaffrey on screen. Like they're promoting him. He has, in my opinion, become the face of the franchise of this team, and he's been there, 2 games, which is insane. So I think that the 49ers will take this, and as long as they can keep the lead, they will win the game. Shanahan does not play well when he goes, or he does not coach well when he goes into a 4th quarter down. That he has a very bad record with that, which is fascinating to me. I thought it'd be better. But so as long as they can just keep the Chargers down in the game, I think with their run game, I think they'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had a good point about the Chargers. The Chargers have a very talented roster, right? You would think that they would be winning games. Yet, here they are, just kind of sitting in mediocrity, right? I mean, they have had some very significant injuries. Let's not downplay that. I mean, they lost Rashawn Slater for the year, which was a huge, huge loss for their offensive line. They lost some key pieces in the secondary for the year as well. The player that came from the Patriots and signed a big free agency deal, they lost him to a season-ending injury. So they have lost very big pieces on both sides of the ball, and I think that is definitely impacting the way that they play their games. But even still, they should not be as bad as they are. They're like the Colts. They have the talent to go out and compete for the division, if not try and win it. Yet here we are, they're second best, which is fine, but they're still kind of just mediocre, and you would just expect better. I just still look back on that moment before the year started when I said the AFC West was going to be must-watch football. If you're watching the AFC West now, you know that that is a lie. Like 3 of these teams fell off the face of the planet, and the only one that's still good is the one that people thought were going to fall off the planet because they lost Tyreek Hill, right? Everyone thought that the Chiefs were going to regress, but it seems like the Chiefs have just gotten better with Tyreek not there. So, I mean, by no means are the Chargers horrible, but again, like the Colts, they have the talent to be so much better than they are.
Mm-hmm.
So much better. And they just aren't. And it's just disappointing, especially if you're a Chargers fan. You have to be feeling disappointment in this team, especially with a quarterback like Herbert, who, when he plays to his potential, is arguably a top 5 quarterback. I mean, the dude is very, very talented. And if he continues playing at a high level, I think there's a really good shot that he makes the Hall of Fame one day. But this team is just not where it's supposed to be. And the season is halfway over. Like, the timer is ticking for them to figure it out. And if they don't figure it out in time, they're going to get their spot snatched by someone. Most likely, probably someone from the NFC East.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, I'm going to go with the Niners because I think McCaffrey is unstoppable. I think if they had Trey Lance, they'd truly be unstoppable. I think they're a little hindered by Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'm going to go with the Niners because I just think that they're just going to overwhelm this Chargers team.
All right. Well, there you have it. And also, random side note, I completely forgot about this. Seahawks at Bucks game is going to be in London. So, or no, not in London, Germany. Germany. This is going to be a
First
huge
German
deal.
game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's exciting. But anyways, let's go ahead. Chelsea, can you do our outro here?
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in next week for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at LaunchCodesFB and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at LaunchCodesFootball. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And we will see you next week.
See ya.
Later.